views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up on today's show, what does the United States, the UK, and France airstrikes mean for Syria's war? On Friday, the United States, the United Kingdom, and France launched in response to a suspected chemical attack on the town of Douma. We'll tell you more about it in our political segment. Then, slow down, rigid muscles, loss of automatic movements are symptoms of Parkinson's disease. What are the new advances in the world to treat this condition? More in our second segment. Then after that, the annual Uptown Arts Stroll in June is calling for different kinds of artists to come and submit their work of art to the Northern Manhattan Art Alliances. The artists would then be able to participate in showcasing their work at the Northern Manhattan Gallery. Then, exploring your kids' creative side and imagination, an artist attributed is the purpose of the 12th annual Kids Comic Con initiative that's been working to bring art, imagination, family and fun together everywhere they go. And then lastly, a dance and fitness studio right here in the South Bronx. It's fun, affordable programming for the entire family. We'll introduce you to that and much more because we're heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, April 18th. Of course, you're watching Open, a live program, bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV. Now, we want to encourage you, stay connected to us. And how can you do that? Well, you can find out more about us at Twitter, at BronxNet TV, and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, a lot has been going on over this past week, and we're going to update you with some Bronx updates featuring some Bronx people. Bronx director known for her service to seniors is making a change. Julia Schwartz-Leeper, an outgoing RSS director, reflects on a decade of work leaving Riverdale Senior Services, where she's had 12 years of experience of providing older adults with memory loss an opportunity to socialize and stay active with a variety of fitness and arts programs. Those range from yoga to sculpture classes. Schwartz-Leeper and her RSS team has launched an adult day program back in 2000 and has been expanding ever since. She faced many challenges in taking the initiative of the company, but what kept her going was diversity and recognition from the seniors. She also improved the facility's healthcare program by bringing on a nurse to provide wellness education and navigate members through the complexities of the country's healthcare system. Schwartz-Leeper still has high hopes for RSS to continue to develop the relationships with other community-based organizations. Well, in other news, when age does not limit you from completing your dream. Renee Minus White was only 12 years old, or I should say 11, when she joined the legendary singing group, the Chantels. Now, while achieving many accomplishments, like being the founder of the communications company Time, to style as a fashion and beauty editor for New York's Amsterdam News, White still finds other ways to share her voice as a member of Christ Episcopal Church's choir. Her love for music has not changed, especially now that she can tour with her old group again. Well, a group of fifth graders are literally rocking out. The trio of the band, Oscar Smith, Alex Arbucci, and Kian Hecht, make up the Great Oaks. Each one of them are skilled instrument players. The band has met every Saturday over the past 6 months for a couple of hours of practice with their mentor and coach, Timothy Hoff. Now the boys practice new songs, but also come up with new ideas, and together they make choices about music. They learn not only through Hoff, but also through each other. And that about takes a look at our Bronx updates featuring Bronx people. We'll take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Open right after this.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund breeding.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
I guess sometimes things just happen. Devastating things. Your whole world changes in an instant. That's what happened to me the day my mother had a stroke.
I'm Paul George, and I want you to spot a stroke fast.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911.
Protect the ones you love.
Spot a stroke fast.
Well, the United States, the United Kingdom, and France launched in response to a suspected chemical attack in Syria to help us now sort through the political news of the day and also to talk about the passing of former United States First Lady Barbara Bush. We welcome now Lee Bynes to the set.
Good to be back.
Hey, good to have you. First of all, let's talk about the passing of Barbara Bush at the age of 92 years old. One who has been known for her outspokenness, quietness, but yet still very, when it comes to America, community-minded.
Well, you know what? She was not only influential, but again, like you said, she kept her second opinions about what was going on, both in her husband's administration as well as her son's administration. Let's face it, she's a very, very unique character in American history to have been married to a president and her son follow through. But yeah, I think the country will miss her. She's, did a lot for the country. She gave a lot of herself, a lot of time. The type of things that she had to be exposed to on two fronts was very, very difficult. So I think we do owe her some words of compliments.
And a lot of historians are now looking back and saying, as far as she's concerned, the only person in U.S. presidential history to be both the wife and the mother of the United States president.
It's historic, but on the other hand, we want to make sure that something like that doesn't necessarily happen again. The country, 300 and some odd million strong, I think that we can escape the idea of having developing dynasties, if you will.
Let's talk about the other news of the day, the airstrikes going towards Syria, also in response to the United States. What can we make of this and where are things going now?
Well, your opening was pretty interesting and pretty accurate when you said suspected chemical weapons use, because that has yet to be verified and substantiated by any of the independent investigators who are charged with that. We have the organization that's charged with making sure that the proliferation or use of chemical weapons is on the down side. Those folks have just gotten into Syria to begin their inspections. The problem with that is that the UK, the United States, and French went ahead with the airstrikes before the investigation could actually determine if it actually happened in the first place, and if so, who was responsible. There's a lot of meat on the bones that we can get off of this story, as I mentioned earlier, because simply when you look at what happened, it was the United States leading the way. I was interested. I was very, very surprised that the French followed, because their population is very, very apprehensive after what happened with the Iraq War debacle. The former Prime Minister of the Brits took a lot of heat. Tony Blair took a lot of heat because he was considered George Bush's lapdog, if you will, for following along and getting involved in that situation. And now we have this incident that occurred. I'm not actually certain whether or not that there was any chemical weapons use, and neither is Congress, because Lindsey Graham, as well as the senator from Tennessee, Bob Corker, came out yesterday, in fact, and said they had a meeting with a confidential briefing with the president, and they were very, very disturbed as to what they heard. So even General Mathis mentioned in his speak with Congress is that he wasn't absolutely certain. They said that there was a lot of evidence that pointed that way, but there was no actual proof.
And if we talk about suspected, well, let's say it's not. If it's not, then what does that mean for the United States?
Well, it means that there's one notch lower on the credibility level. And right now, after George W. Bush's incursion into Iraq, and after the type of president that we've had for the last 15 months, who has a very, very difficult time sticking with the truth, that's going to make a lot of people think twice, if not three times, before they want to work out a deal with the United States. Not only that, but there's a lot of blowback coming right now in the White House against Nikki Haley, ambassador to the UN. She's out front talking about that there were going to be sanctions against Russia. Now, all of a sudden, the White House is saying there will not be any sanctions. What does all of this mean? It ties us back to what's with the next story that's on the agenda, which is James Comey. He's right now going on a book tour, telling the nation pretty much everything that he has witnessed with regards to the president, and he's actually called the president out for being an unmitigated liar. There's no other way to put it. So all of those things being said, we really don't know what to think going forward with regards to Syria, because the United States really doesn't have, or hasn't articulated thus far, a plan, a strategy, a road forward in Syria, whether we're going to stay or whether we're going to get out.
Let me backtrack to the breaking news we had last week. When we came on the air last week, we talked about Paul Ryan making the announcement that he would not seek re-election, and the GOP's response to that. 1 week later, after that, what can we say, and what does things look like for the GOP? It
pretty much looks the same. In fact, since he made that announcement, several other Republicans have already said that they won't be running in the 2018 election. They're going to let their terms expire. That being said, they're giving more evidence to the fact that there is a blue wave coming in the near future in this next election.
What are we to make of this, given the fact that, as we are talking about Paul Ryan, just last week he made the announcement that he would be stepping down and not seeking re-election? A lot of people have been up in arms about whether or not Paul Ryan actually, whether this was staged, whether there's more to it, whether there's a smoking gun here, whether he's going to be a part of that investigative process that goes on into the possible impeachment tactics of the president. What can we make of this?
Well, if in fact there is a blue wave coming, the Democrats will have the numbers to impeach the president if they decide to do that. However, James Comey in his book tour said that these folks shouldn't be let off the hook. The voters, in other words, the voters should not be let off the hook. It's the voters' responsibility to go into the voting booth and vote their values, their conscience. And because if this president is impeached and forced out of office on a congressional from Congress doing this, there's going to be a substantial amount of people in the country that's going to say that he was railroaded. They will never believe it. So the best thing, in my view, is perhaps we have to suffer through another 2 years of this administration and actually let the people have their say. That's pretty much the bottom line.
Moving towards the midterm elections, though, obviously with all these things in Ryan and several others say we will not seek re-election, where does this put the GOP, given the fact that you want to maintain control, but yet and still it looks like, from what we've seen, Democrats have been able to come away with victories in some key areas.
They have, and the one advantage that the Republicans have enjoyed up until now is the fact that they've been able to generate a lot of donor money coming in. With so many people coming to the fore saying that they will not be running again, it kind of like sends the message that, look, this is a loser right now, stay away from it, why invest in a situation that's not going to net any gains down the line? So the GOP, from my estimation, could have a money problem coming up very, very soon. And money and politics, they go hand in hand. Without the money, you know, it walks.
Mm-hmm. So let's take a look going forward, upcoming week. What can we expect coming up this week?
Well, you know what, based on what's happening in Syria, I think that we can look forward to Congress taking a more active role. They've been working, or the United States has been working on an overdue, long overdue AUMD, the authorization for use of force. And Congress have abdicated their responsibilities in that regard big time. And that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump was able to go ahead and launch this strike without Congress having their say. That was a mistake. Congress holds the purse strings to any military activity going forward. Now, don't get me wrong, the president has a certain amount of latitude in the event that there's a self-defense issue, that they have to protect interests in other parts of the world. But when we're talking about a continuous, sustained activity in another country, that's Congress's responsibility to sit down with the president, find out what's going on, and get Congress's okay moving forward. One of the reasons why they haven't done it is because not very many politicians after 9/11 want to actually put their name on it and say, yes, I voted for this action, because it can be used against them. That may be one of the reasons why Hillary Clinton isn't president today, is because Barack Obama voted against it, she voted forward, he was right, she was wrong, he's the president, she wasn't.
That's why we bring in Lee Bonds, our political analyst. Lee, thanks much.
Good to be here.
All righty, listen, taking a quick break, but stay tuned. We've got more open coming up in just a few seconds. Stay with us. We're coming right back right after this.
Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant! It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count, because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
More than 200,000 people are affected by Parkinson's disease. New advances in the medical field are finding ways to improve lives. Now here talking about Parkinson's disease is neurosurgeon Dr. Emad Eskandar, and we thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Good, and so as we have a little bit more of an awareness about Parkinson's disease, as we started off saying more than 200,000 people are really diagnosed annually. From a viewer's perspective, give us a little bit about what exactly is Parkinson's disease?
So Parkinson's disease is probably the most common neurodegenerative disorder. That is, it's one of these diseases that affects virtually everybody in time. It affects people of all ethnic groups. And the things that people would experience are tremor, significant slowness of movement, the inability to get up out of a chair, to walk, to stop, and stiffness, very significant rigidity of their arms and their legs. And over time, this can be really quite disabling and quite a burden to the patients and their families.
We know of two very well-known people, Muhammad Ali, of course, and Michael J. Fox, and both of those gentlemen have suffered with Parkinson's and of course, Muhammad Ali subsequently passing. But when we look at that, we see a very strong man, and then we see all of a sudden the inactivity of limbs and things like that. It's a progressive process, am I correct?
Correct. So it starts, first with some mild symptoms. Usually tremor is the thing that people first notice, and then over time, over a period of 2 to 5 years, you see the full disease picture. And so Muhammad Ali is a perfect example. And I would say he had fairly severe Parkinson's disease, and as you say, you could tell what the effect of this disease was on someone who's incredibly strong and exuberant and so on, and it really slowed him down significantly.
So let's talk about treatment, because there's some family members who are who have relatives and have some questions about treatment. What is the treatment options available for those with Parkinson's?
So the first treatment is medical, and there are actually some very good medical treatments for it. And let me back up a little bit. So Parkinson's disease is caused by the loss of a certain type of neuron in the brain that generates dopamine. And so the medications remedy that. And they work for the most part, for 5, 10, 15 years. But then often they become less effective, and people start to have either worsening symptoms of the Parkinson's disease or very significant side effects of the medications. So you mentioned Michael J. Fox. And what you're seeing, his excessive movements are dyskinesias. They're actually a side effect of the medication. So some combination of those things is what we see. And then that's the time to consider doing surgery for Parkinson's disease.
And so when you talk about surgery success rate, how's it go?
It's actually quite effective. Virtually all people experience significant improvements. The particular treatment I'm talking about is called deep brain stimulation. It sounds worse than it is. It's actually a relatively minimally invasive surgery. We put a very thin electrode into a part of the brain called the subthalamic nucleus. The electrode measures 1 millimeter. And then it's connected by a wire that goes under the skin to something like a pacemaker. So there's nothing to see outwardly. And about 85% of the people experience some significant benefit. There have been multiple studies on this. It's been approved by the FDA, and something like 150,000 people have already had this surgery and have done quite well with it.
Yeah, our viewers were actually just seeing it just a few seconds ago. The actual, it looks like a pacemaker, and he said it's pretty non-invasive.
Correct.
Yeah, and so we're seeing it right there. So give us a little bit more.
Yeah, so the surgery is done not for everybody, but again for the people who have kind of reached that point where they need it, and we can do it either with the person awake or under anesthesia. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to do the initial procedure where we put the electrodes into the brain, and then a second shorter outpatient procedure lasting 45 minutes to put in the pacemaker. And then the device gets turned on, kind of using a magnetic wand, and adjusted over a period of 2 to 3 months.
Wow. And so talk about screening, because obviously for people who may think they have some symptoms, what about screening, and what advice do you give to people about getting checked out?
Obviously very important, and ideally people are seen by someone who specializes in movement disorders, Parkinson's disease and movement disorders neurologists, and then they can help guide them as to what needs to be done. I would say, most of the people we see don't need surgery right away. They need an adjustment of their medications. But then, when the time comes to be at an experienced center that does a fair number of these, and I'll add that one of the challenges is really outreach and access. For instance, we did a study looking at surgery for Parkinson's disease across different populations, and found that across the country, only about 1% of these surgeries is done on African Americans or for African Americans. And so there's a huge disparity there. And so one of my personal goals is really to, improve the education and the outreach and then make sure that, everybody in the community has access to these treatments. And they're available, right here. So.
Dr. Emad Eskandar is from Montefiore. He's the chair of the Department of Neurosurgery at Montefiore and sharing with us a little bit about Parkinson's. And so talk about some of the work that you're doing at Montefiore, particularly dealing with this.
So I think, this is a perfect example of one of the ways we want to, get out and reach the community and make sure people are aware. Obviously, to facilitate the people's access and ability to get through the system. So we have, dedicated navigators, if you will, that can help somebody wend their way through the various complexities of the medical system, the availability of translators, and the availability of good follow-up. And I think, one of the most important things is that it's here, it's local, so people don't have to travel, to another borough or to another city or whatever. We have this here, and I want to make sure people are aware that they can avail themselves of it.
All right, Dr. Emad Eskandar, chair of the Department of Neurosurgery at Montefiore. Thanks so much for coming and sharing with us.
It's my pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Parkinson's. Thank you so much for
Take
bringing
care.
some awareness. All righty. Well, continuing on in news now, we talk about the North Bronx chapter of the National Council of Negro Women. They celebrated the rise of the late civil rights leader Mary McLeod Bethune. Here's the story right now.
The accomplishments of late civil rights leader, educator, and humanitarian Mary McLeod Bethune could be felt here at the Pelham Bay Split Rock Golf Course decades after she founded the National Council of Negro Women in 1935. The North Bronx chapter celebrated her rise to become an advisor to two presidents, founder of Bethune-Cookman College in Florida, and an advocate for voter registration by recognizing these women, who today are stepping out as leaders here in the Bronx to make a difference and inspire a new generation.
As a Floridian, who had an aunt who went to Bethune-Cookman, it has been ingrained in us as women. Going back to my grandmother, education, sisterhood, and love of family, especially our youth. So it's a blessing to be affiliated and a part of this organization.
An organization that is also celebrating a milestone.
This organization is an 86-year-old organization, but our section is 50 years. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary.
Among the honorees this year, Judge Tanya R. Kennedy, a New York County State Supreme Judge.
It's certainly not about me, but it's really about my family, my friends, and certainly God, who has blessed me in so many ways, just to allow me to be here today.
And from law to healthcare, Dr. Christine Greenidge from the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation helps to coordinate and schedule patients following their hospitalization.
I am so humbled by the honor and the privilege of this nomination. Throughout my life, I was raised by a very strong grandmother who I watched grow up, given and given and given. And so I think my very fabric is to be generous, to recognize mankind and do as much as I can to further the development of communities as well as people.
If we as people of color especially learn to enhance new ideas so we can support those ideas, I think our community will always be growing.
That's community activist and honoree Dr. Johnny Goff, CEO of Jade Multifamily Services Center, who is working to keep the organization relevant today. With Mother's Day around the corner, she's partnering with Ridgewood Savings Bank branch manager Janice Martin to present hundreds of seniors with flowers to mark the occasion.
You don't do it necessarily for recognition. You do it because you want to help the people in the community. But it's the icing on the cake when people really recognize the work that you've done. So it's really good. It feels awesome.
I want to help. I want to see, good differences made and positive changes happen. And I see that I have the ability to, I have the experience to do this.
A former Bronx regional representative for Governor Andrew Cuomo, she's now running as a Democratic candidate in the 80th Assembly District. She's joined by education leader Cheryl Forbes, who's director of the Doris E. Stone Early Childhood Development Center, where she's developing a curriculum for children as young as 3.
I was shocked. I was surprised. I said, really? Are you sure? I didn't believe it at first.
Just look at the crowd behind me, 50 years strong and continuing that way by carrying on the legacy of Mary McLeod Bethune, who is all about empowering communities. For BronxNet, this is Arlene Makoko.
And thank you, Arlene. Well, artists and venues, organizations, businesses, and more, they're invited to participate in the 2018 Uptown Arts Stroll. Coming up in June, local artists will open their professional or home studios and give visitors a glimpse into their creative process during Northern Manhattan's open studios. Here now to tell us more is Joanna Castro. She's the executive director of the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Daren. A pleasure to be here this morning.
Good.
It really is super exciting for us. This is the Sweet 16th Uptown Arts Stroll. It started as a day-long volunteer event. It kept expanding, and now it's a month-long. To give you an idea, last year we had about 200 events just the month of June. So it's a pretty massive community event, grassroots, an easy subway bus ride away in Northern Manhattan, so we cover from West 135th up to West 220th. We have the opening at the Sugar Hill Children's Museum of Art and Storytelling. And as you mentioned, we have open studios, and that's a community favorite. As you probably know, apartments uptown tend to be a little bit bigger than downtown.
Right.
So many of our artists use part of their home for open studios. So it's a very giving experience of opening your home basically to the general public so that people can see the creative process and hopefully also purchase artwork by local artists.
And you talked about how it started as like this, one, and it's actually grown. What do you think makes the difference for this?
I think it's very democratic. Is you want to be part of it, get together with someone, reach out to a venue, whether it's a restaurant, you can have an event at the park. We don't curate. And so there's a sense of ownership of I can be part of it too. And I think that's what the spirit that has been so key for the stroll of inclusivity, diversity, multiculturalism.
Well, 'tis the season, and we know that coming up towards the end of the week is, you've got Earth Day coming up, and that's going to be a very big day for you. Talk about Earth Day and what's happening.
Yes. So we're surrounded by lots of parks in Northern Manhattan, and why not take advantage? Why not encourage people to utilize the park, especially because the weather looks pretty good. Fingers crossed, weather gods listening.
We hope, right?
Indeed. So we want to showcase actually two things. One, for the last few years, we've had public art in the park, and that for us is very important to have Uptown artists showcase not only in enclosed areas, but also in the park. So we have two installations in Inwood Hill Park. We will be collaborating with Friends of Inwood Hill Park during their Earth Day festivities. So this is their third annual Earth Day festival. And we're bringing in a group from the Dominican Republic, and her name is Enero Lisa. She's very well known, and she will be offering a free workshop followed by a performance. And this is at 2 o'clock at Payson Playground. So this is really exciting for us to also encourage people to see the connection between the arts and the community. So culture can take place anywhere, whether it's a park, a museum, a restaurant. We are surrounded by art and culture.
Give me a little bit of your perspective about bridging the arts and community, right? Because you have the arts, and the arts really makes up the community, and it's based on a lot of people in the community. But sometimes there's a disconnect. And do you feel like the connect is being made more now these days?
I think so. I can't imagine life without the arts. First of all, how boring, really. How can we not have music? How can we not have spoken word? How can we not have visual arts? So it's a way to express ourselves. And I think particularly in the political times that we face, art is a way to express that, to vent, to explore, to connect, and to avoid isolation, to really feel like we're part of something bigger. It's food for the soul.
Yeah,
it really
definitely. I want to talk about the new bench, and there's something going on there. So introduce our viewers to the new bench.
Sure. So actually, a little show and tell, as they say. So these are the two installations that we have in the park. The way that we do artwork.
Or let me hold it up. I'll take it and hold it. No,
thank you.
Yep, there it is.
There we go. So we do a call, we ask artists to submit a proposal, and then we have a review process, and these two were the pieces that were selected. For the top bench, he's actually a student finishing his master's in fine arts, and he created this bench from piece, and it's all hand carved. And it's done very well. I was walking by the park on Sunday, and there was a group of Qigong people who were practicing, and they were practicing right in front of the bench. For the shoe, which is called the bottom one, in someone else's shoe, it's great to see little kids go in, sit, touch, play, try to figure out all the different components that make the shoe. So it really is just a way to create questions, comments, to be inquisitive, and to have fun.
So interesting. So people can come and check out the shoe and the new bench, and certainly a lot going on. And so a busy time of year for you guys, huh?
Yes. So all of this, as we prepare for the stroll, we also actually have on May 12th a free art making workshop and live music at the Inwood Farmers Market. Please, I invite your audience and audience members to attend. Both of these events are free and open to the public, and this will lead up to the Uptown Arts Stroll. And most of our events are free and open to the public, including, of course, the opening as well as the closing.
How are you able to get your hands on all these different artists?
Collaboration, partnerships, teamwork, volunteers. So really it takes a village. It sounds cheesy, but it really does take a village.
And so when these artists get together, talk to us about that feeling, because you got similar people, we all share the same work. What's that vibe like, and what's it like for them being a part of this stroll?
When I'm near artists, I'm like, those are my people. I studied art. I knew I would never make a living out of it, so my next best option was to be surrounded by them. And it's just really a great energy to be near them, surrounded, see their work, see how they think, see how they express themselves, and how they encourage conversation. I think we're living at a time that conversation, dialogue is very important. So one tool is definitely through the arts.
Definitely. Before we leave one more time, let's get people connected to Sunday. Talk about Sunday again. Where can they go, and where's it taking place?
Sure. So again, a little show and tell. Here's the flyer. This is Enero Lisa. She's coming directly from the Dominican Republic with her group of 9 musicians and performers. We'll be offering a free workshop followed by a performance at 2 o'clock at the Place and Playground. Please follow us on social media if you have any questions, comments, or concerns.
All right.
We hope you
Joanna
enjoy.
Castro, thank you so much for coming and being
Thank
with
you,
us
Daren.
today. Good
Pleasure
to have
to be
you.
here.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. All right. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break. We got more shows. Stay with us. We'll come right back with more Open right after this.
Chiru has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. But together, we can end their walk by providing clean water close by. Instead of spending hours walking to get water that makes them sick, girls can be in a classroom, and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
Exploring your kids' creative side, imagination, and artists attributed is the purpose of the 12th Annual Kids Comic Con Initiative. Has worked to bring art, imagination, family, and fun, all together, everywhere they go. And joining us now is Alex Simmons, the co-founder of Kids Comic Con, and good to have you.
Same here.
Hey,
thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for coming to share with us. And, so we talk about comic books, obviously. I mean, I grew up on them.
Yep.
Spider-Man, the whole
nine, yeah.
Right. It's things have kind of evolved, right? And in major ways.
Oh, big ways. I mean, when I was growing up, and I'm a little older than you, my mother used to refer to them as funny books, and a lot of teachers and people referred to them as sort of trash or that sort of nonsense, but it wasn't real books, real reading. And one of the things that's evolved over the past 20 years alone is that comics are now seen as a legitimate part of literacy. It's always encouraged kids to read. It's always encouraged kids to imagine all kinds of possibilities and fantastic adventures. But now the educational world and the literate world is starting to see that it has other stronger foundations and connections to literacy, to reading, to expanding consciousness.
So let's talk about you for a minute. Obviously, you've been doing this for a minute, as you said. And so now you have the opportunity to take your comic book expertise and really bring it to local artists here.
Well, it started out a long time ago, as I was just telling you. I noticed that the industry many years ago started to move away from kids and family material. They were doing more what they considered adult material. And really a lot of children, especially with reading or learning disabilities or just challenges, comics was an accessible way into that, the world of imagination, reading. It took kids who were in a sort of a challenged position, it took them out into the world or out into the fantastic. So it expanded the possibilities. And when an industry moves away from that, I felt there was a major loss. So I started asking some of the conventions just to have a kids section. Let's just do that. Some did, some didn't. So a few years ago, back in 2006, I met Eugene Adams, who's the Director of Educational Outreach at Bronx Community College. And he offered up an opportunity for me to do workshops with kids in middle school, high school, and also some college students. I've been doing it elsewhere, but I was doing it there. Then he offered up the opportunity for me to do a symposium there so that college students could see there's a career in this field. And then he asked me, well, what else do you want to do? He hadn't learned not to ask me that, right? And I said, well, I've always wanted to do a family event. We figured we'd do it one time. He said, fine, let's go. It was so successful that we've been continuing to do it every year for the past 11 years. This year will be our 12th.
Wow. So what happens at this particular event?
We bring a whole bunch of folks together, okay? So I reach out normally to not only the professionals I know in the industry, because I do write, I've written for DC, for Archie and so forth, but I'll reach out to some of my friends in that realm, but also to independent artists that I've met, also to up and coming, and they can come and they can have a table where they, either sell their wares or present what's happening, but more importantly, we give free workshops in drawing and creating to the young people that come. And I stop saying kids sometimes because people think, oh, you're only dealing with the younger ones. No, we have kids are kids. So it's the little ones right on up to, 19, 20.
Kids at heart.
Exactly. And so you can come, you can meet these artists, you can buy comics if you want, you can attend workshops in various levels of drawing capabilities. Also, we have puppeteers and other types of artists who come and they show how we do this or how drawing sequentially connects to making films or making television, because there's storyboards and things like that. So it's about opening up people's minds to possibilities. And certainly kids who are more connected to computers, they can learn, well, what is computer coloring? Or how do I create animation, things like that. So we'll have people who can talk about that as well. So it's a one-day event, but we cram a lot into it.
Right, so for people who want to take advantage of this, be a part of this, if somebody's watching now with their youngsters saying they want to come on, what do?
Well, they got to bring themselves.
That's
this Saturday, April 21st, they come to Bronx Community College, up there on 181st Street in University, to Colston Hall. And I'm sure somewhere you guys have the flyer for that.
Yes.
So this is our 12th annual, so they can get there. We're there from 10 in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening. And we'll have, as I said, the artists, we'll have workshops, we'll have a number of demonstrations. We'll also have a costume parade for kids, so kids can come in costume. Adults can come too.
Right.
And we'll also have some cosplayers there, so there'll be adults in costume, and I think you have an image of that as well.
Yeah, so what's the takeaway after people have this experience? For somebody who just may be come in and watch it and they have the first time experience. What kind of feedback do you get?
There's so many levels. I don't think we have time to cover all, but I'll just try and do it in bullet points. We have brought communities together because not only does this serve the community around BCC, but we've had people come in from Connecticut, from Manhattan, come from Queens, come from Chicago. We had an animator who worked with Disney come all the way from California and appear there one time. So it brings people together because comics is a sort of a common denominator, a collaborator. The other things it's done is we've had people thank us for creating an event that they could bring their family to. And I've actually had sometimes grandparents or aunts, uncles standing there with tears in their eyes because they can see their kids having a great time and so forth. So it's been encouraging. We've had young people come to us years ago as children enjoying this who've now followed into a career. Or it's opened up their path in terms of looking at reading or writing and stuff, because it's told them it's possible. If you can imagine it, make a plan, it's possible to achieve something.
And I want you to speak to that. Let's talk about the career aspect, because there is a career that can be made out of
Absolutely. You know, a lot of people think comic books is a person, one person, drawing and writing and coloring and then making it happen. And it's collaboration on so many levels. There are the writers, the editors, the illustrators. If you're working with hard paper and pen, that's one thing. But there are people who do the computer skills. There are graphic designers. There's production. You have to understand how to separate colors, how to do the printing. You have to understand distribution, retail. If you do the drawing for comics, you are in a position to learn to do advertising. So you can do advertising art. You can also learn to do what we call storyboards. Storyboards are illustrated versions of what a filmmaker uses to plan out the commercial that we see on television, the TV shows, the movies we go to the theaters for. There's so many levels, and then there's international. Pardon me, through KCC, we've connected children in different countries working on a collaborative project of comics, but here they're sharing, here's what it's like in my country as opposed to, you know, what do you do in yours that's similar or different? Because this is also a line of communication. So you can start to meet people and learn things and develop things, tell your own personal story through like journals or biographies, but you can also tell fantastic stories, you know, science fiction and whatever. So there's all of these levels, and of course, if you're doing science fiction, then you have to do research. So the things you learn in school become valid in another form.
Well, Alex Simmons, we thank you for coming to share with us. He's an award-winning freelance writer, and he's written comic books and also for Disney Books, Penguin Press, Simon & Schuster, DC Comics, Archie, and good to have you right here with us.
Thank you very much.
Hey, man, thanks so much for
coming. And hopefully you'll see these folks this Saturday, April 21st.
That's right. Saturday it is. Saturday it is. All right, listen, taking a quick break. We'll be back with more Open coming up. We'll be right back in a few.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Well, thank you for watching. The dance and fitness studio is in the South Bronx. Yes, the House of Casimar prides itself on its very affordable programming for the entire family. The LLC was created last spring and in January finally secured a new home. Here to tell us more about this fitness studio, we welcome now, how to pronounce your name?
It's Casimar.
Casimar.
Yes, Casimar.
There you go. Good to have Casimar here in the house.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
Well, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you. It's a full year, so I'm super excited to share that.
1 year anniversary.
Yes, 1 year anniversary. Started last April.
Uh-huh.
So that was when the LLC was created, and this past January, we officially have our own studio space. So we're no longer hopping around. We have a home for the house.
That's it. So in the studio space, what goes on?
Exactly what you would imagine. A whole lot of dancing, a whole lot of shaking, a whole lot of confidence. Mm-hmm. Really what it is that we do is that we are trying to invigorate the community just really to move more. Whenever you think of fitness and dance, you think of, oh my God, I have to do this, or oh, I can't dance, or my body cannot move in that way. And really all we want to do is to inspire any kind of movement. So if you can just move your arms out to the side, if you can move your feet back and forth, you can dance. Mm-hmm. You can do fitness. It's not a matter of trying to fit a certain mold. It's just about starting it.
And we know that physical activity creates energy, and that does a whole lot of things for different people.
Yeah.
So talk about who comes under your roof in your studio.
So firstly, we have our kids program. That's really what we focus on more so. Mm-hmm. So we have the dance company, and then it's more so of a fitness component to it. And our kids go from the age of 3 all the way up to 16. And then past that, then they would go into more of the, not the parents class, mm-hmm. but like the adults dance program,
right?
That we also have. So literally anybody can dance as long as you're over the age of 3.
So you can come on in and dance. Now, this has been a passion and a vision for you. I mean, talk about this because this is a journey. You're celebrating a 1 year anniversary,
yes.
But you're a former teacher.
I am a former teacher. So when I finished college, I just went into the school system, very bright-eyed, and I don't know what I had in mind, but I knew that I just wanted to change the world through education. I had no idea what it is that I wanted to teach. I just knew that I wanted to help mold minds and get them to the next level. But I felt a lot of limitations. And one of those limitations was that, when you're teaching a child or you're teaching at a college, I've done both, mm-hmm. You get them for a span of maybe 6 months or maybe 10 months. And then after that, the student is gone. And you don't really get a chance to follow their progress. And I wanted to create some type of program that I can really start the education process and watch them grow. And I didn't want to just teach, a 4th grade and then watch them leave in the 6th grade. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get a 9-year-old and watch them. I wanted to see the process. I wanted to see the effect that it was that I had on the kids.
And so you leave teaching and then you decide to do this full time.
Yes. So just for for extra giggles, I guess, I got a job at a commercial gym. And I started teaching Zumba. And I realized through Zumba that I was still educating, I was still helping people. I was still teaching, it just wasn't in a traditional setting. I didn't have the chalkboard, or I just dated myself. I didn't have the smart board.
Right, there you go. There you go.
I didn't have the smart board. I didn't have the desks, but I was still teaching. But even with the commercial gyms, you're taught that the client is gold for 60 minutes. After the 60 minutes is done, you have to run and go punch out, mm-hmm. because we're not paying you to talk to people. And again, my focus is the client. My focus is the student. I care And yes, I do want to dedicate the time to talk to you because when it comes to fitness, a lot of people are afraid to take that step. They're afraid to do the crunch. They're afraid to eat wheat bread instead of white bread. And really what can help with that is a simple conversation.
Wow. And so you have that conversation, and your goal is really to give back to the community and spending that time and investing. What advice do you give to somebody, who has the fear? Because somebody's out there like, well, this really sounds like what I want to do, right? But I got a little fear here. So walk somebody through this. Tell them how to get over it and get into it.
So whenever I meet somebody that they tell me that they can't dance, I ask permission and I said, well, can I hold your hand? Immediately, it's like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to touch me? What's going on? But I ask them for that permission just to break the ice because it is physical. But if I show them, hey, you're not alone in this. We can walk back and forth together. We can step side to side together. And really, it's about making sure that they understand that they have the control that they think is not theirs. They think that because, you're telling them to do something, they have to do it. And if they don't do it the right way, that's it, they're a failure. No one in life wakes up to fail. I mean, I don't. So when you do it with them and you show them, and you meet the client or the student where they are, see what it is that they're doing. Do a proper assessment. Where are they? And then from there, you build on that.
And so if people want to find out more about the House of Casimar, what do they do?
So you can always go on my Instagram or my Facebook. The handle is simple. It's the Haus of Casimar. The spelling is Haus. And just go on there. On the website, we have a ton of information that you would be able to find. You would be able to have our registration is open for all of the ages. So our toddler class, our regular kids class from 6 to 16, that's on the weekends. And then we have our teen after school program that will be starting up in the fall.
So talk to us. 1 year later, how do you feel and what are you looking forward to?
I'm super excited just to meet more people. That's been our number one thing, just in trying to get out there and get the marketing done the proper way. I mean, I'm doing this all on my own. I don't have any type of fundings. I don't have anyone saying, oh, here, do this, here, do that. Everything is really just through myself. And I feel like I can do it as long as I meet the people and I get them to see what it is that we're all doing. I'm from the South Bronx. And I wanted to make sure that I serviced my community. I've had plenty of opportunities to travel. I've had people offering me jobs to teach in Manhattan. However, I feel, just being from the Bronx myself, there's so much potential, there's so much room for growth. And I know what it is to want to do something and not have the programs around. And for it to be too expensive. My mom was a single mom of 4 kids, and she pushed all of us through college and she made sure that we was doing things. I want to be able to offer a program to that mom, offer a program to those kids, so that way they know that they have it and it's in their own backyard.
Casimar, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. And congratulations on your anniversary. Of course, you got the information at the bottom of the screen that you can always be able to check him out at the House of Casimar, celebrating 1 year. And thanks so much for coming and being with us.
And I hope you come and take a dance class.
I got to come and do it. Listen, got to try one. It's never too old to try, right? There you go. All right, well, listen, we come to the end of our show today. I want to thank our guests for joining us, but most of all, I want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in now. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast, and yes, 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum's Channel 67. If you don't have that, you're on Verizon Files. Of course, we're on Channel 33, or you can watch us anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless, and most of all, keep this channel wide open. Take care.